Good to have you all.
Okay, I'll open the meeting for the City Plan Commission. Roll call, please, Leah.
Umesh Bhatia, David Brown,
Yes.
Charlie Graff,
Yes.
Jan Hansen, John Nichols,
Yes.
Mike Schultz, Carolyn Tallett.
Okay, we do have a quorum then. I need a motion to accept the minutes from our last meeting or add or subtract from them, whatever you think.
I make a motion that we accept them as read.
Got a motion?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Go ahead.
David Brown,
Yes.
Charlie Graff,
Yes.
John Nichols,
Yes.
Mike Schultz.
Yes.
Are we still in line, Leah,
okay with
to
the
follow the agenda as
Yes.
presented? Okay. Next on the agenda is the preliminary plat for Clinton School Subdivision Number 3. 12 lots at a subdivision. This is the second one. For, I guess, it's a building and traits. Wouldn't that be correct, Matt? Is there someone here to address us on that subject?
Two people. Travis Freese,
Okay, please come to the podium there and state your name.
Travis Freese, WHKS. And then we have Cindy.
Cindy McAleer, CFO for Clinton Schools.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
What we have here is basically an extension of the existing two subdivisions for Clinton Community Schools. These are obviously used as for the trades and building for the school. There's 12 lots, one of which is going to be for a detention pond, so there's actually going to be 11 lots for houses to be built on.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that. What's the missing lot for?
A detention pond.
Okay, oh, sure, okay.
And that would be where Lot 6 is, if you're interested. On the north side of the property is already an existing 50-foot city-owned property, and we're going to be adding 10 foot to that to make it a 60-foot right-of-way for a future road. And we are going to be putting a concrete road in that's, the same size and width as the existing concrete road, and we're just going to extend it up to that new right-of-way that we're going to be able to tee into in the future. I'm not sure what other information you'd like from us today.
I guess, of course, we got 10 pages of yeses and nos here, and they're all okay. Would you like to speak?
Cindy.
Sydney?
Yep, sure. So in case you're not aware, we do have a building trades program through our Clinton High School, and we also coordinate that with the community college now. So like Travis stated, this is the third and final subdivision of this area. It runs along North 18th Street. Like Travis mentioned, we're looking at doing 11 more lots. The 12th one would be a detention pond.
Okay.
For the requirements. We're looking at trying to get this started this spring, this summer, with the intent. Right now, we currently have, we're building a house and we have 2 more lots in our current subdivision, but we're just getting all the infrastructure ready so that we can continue on with the program.
Okay. This is the school, do they own all this land already? It's just a matter of,
Right.
of
Yep,
platting
they
it,
do.
and
Yep.
I understand that
Yep.
this is just the preliminary, and then we'll do the final one, I guess, on February 7th.
Mm-hmm.
But, that will come back to us on February 7th for the final plat. This is a preliminary plat. Is that not correct?
Well, it was a little unclear of what we were doing because initially we were going to be filing for a waiver of the preliminary plat, and then
Okay.
about a week ago we were asked to just submit the application, and I was unclear if we were going to be going through both of them today or if it was if we're going to have any corrections or changes that you wanted for a final plat, or if you like what we're doing here, and I'm not sure the exact process for the city of Clinton and how you guys handle that. We obviously aren't going to be able to approve this until the first city council meeting in February, based on my understanding. So I don't know if that is the 7th. Is that the date you're 13th? So I think the 7th sounds right for maybe a final plat.
Okay.
And the 13th for a city
That's
signature.
what my paperwork, our paperwork is
Okay.
here, that it's a preliminary, and sometimes they do both. They do the final at the same time, but the paperwork I have in front of me here is just a preliminary today, and, well, I'll just read it to you. The staff recommendation is approval of the preliminary plat for Clinton High School subdivision number 3. The final plat would be considered at the February 7th Plan Commission. And that would be it then. So,
That sounds right.
as of today, then we would just move it forward if we so desire, and then, or the 7th will come back, and it kind of amounts to the same thing. Is that a good way of putting it?
Certainly.
Okay.
See if there's anything that's happened between now and then that we need to change
Sure.
it. Otherwise, because the council needs a final plat approved by the planning commission to then go to the February 13th.
Yep. No, that makes sense.
Okay.
I guess just one question I have, do you need our school board approval before the city council would approve it?
Boy.
Jason, what do you think?
Well, yeah, so all that paperwork that is filed with the
Yep.
final plat, whenever your city attorney provides the city with all that paperwork, that would be, once that's accumulated, then that would go on the next council meeting after that. So the planning commission doesn't need all of that. We can go through with just an application, and we'll review the final plat and final subdivision plan, which I think it changed a little bit, from a little bit of back and forth. But then, usually what happens is, once Leah gets all of the accompanying legal documents and all that information, including probably an approval from your school board, then it would go on the council agenda. So it could be as early as the first one in February, no problem. Excellent subdivision.
Yeah, when is your next meeting?
I was just gonna look.
Yeah. We try to have the signature done before it comes to the council and then they approve, so then the mayor can sign the next day, and then it's codified, so.
So February 12th,
Oh, the day before.
so that works
Yeah,
out
yeah,
okay?
perfect.
Okay,
perfect.
that'll
The
be
stars
fine.
are aligning.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
And Dave, we just wanted to say for the public record too is, 7th Avenue North area, and the school helping us out with this, but that's the future road that will lead to future ball fields. So we want to make sure that's aware, because I know people will look to buy a house, some might be excited, some might others, but we want to make sure, and we talked about it as a staff this morning, Josh Eggers and I and Jason and crew, and we want to make sure that we put that out just publicly, verbally, but that's someplace that we're looking that would be an extension of where Erickson's community center is now. And there would be most likely, if money fell out of the sky today, there'd be 4 baseball, 4 softball, pavilion there, the head shed where the announcing and everything is done as well. It wouldn't affect that, it'd just be a road, a nice concrete road that will go into that area where that will hopefully someday exist. So we just want to make sure you guys were tracking that as well as we partner for
So
this.
that maybe means there could be some shared cost in that road down the road.
Possibly, yes. Always with the CFO, you got to be careful. But yes.
I guess, can I ask another question? And I guess, does the city have plans for that area behind our subdivision?
So that most likely depends. Most likely it would be parking area, unless you guys want to build more houses. But I think we haven't done a final version of what the layout would be, but there would be some encroachment from the Erickson proper over to that area, but that's something we could look at together as a team.
Okay.
Because if you came back and this gets us to like, say, 2032, and you wanted to go on the other side, I think we could take a look at that. We'd rather have houses, and figure out how to push the ball fields, further direction, so,
Okay.
yep.
Do you build one house a year, or do you get it all done
We've been on the cycle of one house every 2 years.
Oh,
However, this past year, we were able to get one done in 1 year. So much depends on the number of kids that are involved in the program. Now with our joint effort with the college, that's made a little bit of a difference because we are getting some students from other districts that come in as part of the program. So yeah, this last one we were able to do in a year.
oh, okay.
So it's just kind of how things fall into place, and that's why we've got to be ready to go, just in case they start going up at a year at a time, so.
Okay. Commissioners,
Very nice.
do we have any questions or comments?
I don't.
Okay.
And they always look very nice, by the way.
Oh, yeah, they do.
And we're getting nice young families to buy them, too,
Yeah.
so that's great.
Charlie, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the preliminary plot for the Clinton School subdivision number 3 and move it to the next meeting.
Okay, we have a motion,
I'll second.
and we have a second. Okay. Any other discussion before we vote? Vote, please, Leah.
David Brown.
Yes.
Charlie Graff.
Yes.
John Nichols.
Yes.
Mike Schultz.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion passed. Thank you. Now, to get to our short subject today,
Record time, actually.
City Administrator is here to present this because it's lengthy.
Well, the good news is we're not going to go through every slide. What I did here was I put it
Okay.
all together in a package because this is what I'll eventually show to the council at a council of a whole. But for today's focus, we're going to go through each of the projects and make sure, and John, we haven't probably met and talked before, but this is the Bible we go by, which is the strategic plan of 2032.
I have it at home and I've read most of it.
Gotcha. So what I'm going to go through is when we go through each of these projects, I'm going to tell you how they align with the strategic plan, because what we need from the planning commission today is to confirm that all these projects fall within the strategic plan, and we're just not coming up with projects that are out of context of the strategic plan for this. So, but I kind of want to give the background. So capital improvement plan, it hasn't been going that long in the city of Clinton. I think 2010, it kind of dates back when they started to get it rolling, and then my predecessor started to kick up the gears. And what this is about really is being able to not only look what we need to do next year, but look long range and balance that with where's our budget, how much is it going to cost to borrow money, because for the majority of the projects we do, we have to borrow money. That's the way it's set up. It's sad. And so what we do is we put a team together. Make this a little bigger so you guys can see. This is right out of your packets, but for those online too, I'll just make this a little larger if I can. Got through that. All right. Here we go. So we start off with, we have 3 council members that sit on the CIP committee. This year we had council members Musman, Kearns, and Davis. We have a county board of supervisor. It was county board of supervisor SERP. CEO Grow Clinton, Andy. We had Mike House from the Clinton Community Schools. We had Umash from the Planning Commission and Mike Schultz. So you get to hear this again.
Yeah.
And then we had Catherine and Charles as at-large community members. And then, of course, we had the staff, the city staff with all the department heads that sat in as well. And we typically start, in this case, we've been rolling for a couple of years, but we like to start in the summertime and start honing in on the upcoming fiscal year. And another little trick we use is when I say a lot of acronyms. So FYE is the best way to do it, fiscal year ending.
Yep.
So we're working, we just had an audit of 22, or 23, we're working on budget 24, in budget 24, and now we're focused on 25. So this is for fiscal year ending 25, which would basically start July 1st of 2024, okay? And then within that, I also then draft up the letter that will go to, I'd let you guys see this, but this will go to the council to talk about where our focus was, what we're looking at, what we're trying to accomplish through the capital improvement piece and parts. In this case here, this was, like I said, established back in 2010 and kind of got a little more traction through 15, 16, and we kind of taken it from there. But this is basically to prioritize all capital projects. We try to focus on things over $50,000, but occasionally some things might be less than that get thrown into the pile to take a look at. I've been trying to keep updated with the 10-year plan on the financial side so we can report back to the council where we are, because the goal of the council is to get the overall borrowing at around 65%. And now we're over 80, we're probably closer to 85% right now. We're going to peak a little bit because we have Manufacturing Drive and Bluff Boulevard. That's one of the top priorities over the next 3 years. But then we're going to start to see that amount go down. And that's all based on the fact that we're using really little growth. And for this year, really exciting, we saw $75 million growth in assessed values. Now, not for this day, but maybe homeowners aren't that excited because their taxes go up. But there's a rollback piece that's going to come into play that should pretty much level those out. But we look at that valuation differently from taxes to borrowing, because that gives you the ability to borrow additional dollars that you might need. But it's up to the council at the end of the day to determine where their comfort level is with the debt service levy. So just because you have a lot of money to borrow doesn't necessarily mean you want to do that, because that then goes directly on to folks' taxes. So we try to make sure that we have the best and brightest projects that we need. And so what we do is we came in and we had a priority. Economic development, we focus on roads, but we don't focus on new roads. Okay, we try to get the developers to do new roads. Like the 36th Avenue South, which you may or may not heard of at the rail park, the developers in the state of Iowa is paying for that. We're not paying a dime. But manufacturing in Bluff, it's closer to $40.5 million project, and then pavement management, which we're between $3 and $3.5 million every year just to maintain our current roads. Rail park, mentioned the rail park, but a drop push pull operation, we're going to put some switches and some rail track in, and then hire a third party that's going to move all the cars for the businesses that are going out there. Airport, Marlena does a great job, which I'll hit on being able to get grants, and there's a match, usually it's a small match that we make sure we can add into that. And then some small micro grants and facade and other incentives for some economic development. Public safety, of course, we want to make sure we have in the 10-year plan, the ambulances, we have 10-year plan, we have fire trucks, because that's all got to be planned out for. And when we get to there, you'll actually see, you'll probably chuckle, because we have, like, I talked to a Deputy Chief Chapman this morning, we have $900,000 for like 5 years from now, which will probably be $1.5 million, right? But all for planning to be able to look out and forecast so we're not surprised. But also to continue the access to the library and police restrooms, to update those for ADA, and then continued attention on vacant abandoned buildings, which we'll talk about a little bit. Quality of life, of course, housing new homes and apartments, and sometimes we can offset that by doing some of those things to assist. Parks and Rec and Public Works projects, they kind of combine on some areas. The library, who we'll talk about Miss Susie, she's been using past dollars to catch up on projects, so she's not have to ask for any new dollars. And then we really looked on hold any project over $5 million, unless there's like a 35 or 50% match, we kind of really steer away from. We try to only do maintenance on the roads, not new roads, as we mentioned, for that, and just maintain them. And so we came up with, I think it's a couple years back now, we came up with a criterion, and we're still refining this. We had some good discussions, as Mike sat in on. We had some good discussions even to refine this a little more. But we have at least an objective criteria that we go through and we rank order all the projects. So I'm going to show you today. Today you're actually going to get them in numerical order of priority based on the folks that were on the CIP and the department heads and other citizens that joined in to rank these. But we pulled this from a couple of different places, but we looked at mandatory maintenance, improve efficiency, and new services for that, and those get evaluation. We looked at the priority ranking, whether they be very high, high, medium, low, and that priority ranking stems, though, from the department head coming out of there, or in this case, and this is what we're going to fix next year, some of the planning people might not understand. It might be high to them, but it might be very high to the department head, right? So we got to clarify that for next year. But then also, very important is the council, we're focused on 15-year bonds. And so in here, we're trying to, you get more points if the project can go 20 years or more. So that's why that's at 10 points, if you will, 10 to 19 years, and then 5 through 9. And then Effects on operating maintenance costs, of course, if it can reduce costs, that's a more value. If it's unchanged, as well as if it increases costs, you get a lower value for that, meaning you're going to go do something, and all of a sudden, you got to hire 3 more people to run it, right? So now you're going to have more operational costs for that. Same with effect on town's revenue. Say we're going to have a project in concert with something that's going to happen on the riverfront, and that brings more people in. You can see an increased revenue, or something like an update to the pool, et cetera. And then basically availability of state or federal funds, you'll see that as the color blue. If there's a grant match, those items will be actually listed in blue. And then if it was directed by the city council by a resolution or strat plan, we added that last year, it gets an additional 10 points, meaning somewhere along the line, the council has already approved that project and then allocated funds for that project. And so with that said, on this chart here, made it a little bigger for you to see, here's the values as they came out. I basically took all the folks that ranked them for that. I think the total could be like 65, I think. Overall, the highest total could be 65. And then we basically put them, since it's FY fiscal year ending 25, it's 25.1 through 26. That's how Anita and Finance tracks those projects. The blue, as I noted here, those are ones that come with a match, or like with the library, are already being funded, but we kept them in the priority list to provide Susie that support, saying, yep, those are still priority to get done, even though she's using different year monies for that. I did keep the money in here, although you guys aren't involved in that. That's going to be the council's decision. I've already kind of rearranged a little bit. I just want to show for the planning commission, we had a budget going in to stay under 9.6 million, and we're under by 24,800. Because we removed some of these below the yellow bar, put them in small cap, or put them in different years, or held on those. And so I'm going to go through all of them today, though, because what I want to get concurrence that all of these are bona fide projects, and then as we go through the process with the council, they'll figure out what amount they want to be able to borrow at, and then where they're comfortable with that spend plan. So the first one on top is engineering. That's manufacturing, drive, and bluff. And just talked to Jason this morning again. This actually, for you guys keeping track, you will not see much movement in 2024 because of the 15 million from the federal government. We were slowed down. Most likely, you'll see a lot of the work begin in 2025 on manufacturing, and that'll be the bridges individually, and then the road as it goes. Pretty much everything from South 19th west or southwest to past Nestle Purina will be under construction starting in 2025 for that. But for that next phase, we need $3.5 million for that. That overall project, as I mentioned, 40 million. This is a rolling number as we keep adding, but these are the matches of over 22.2 million from the state and federal government. Next is pavement management at 3.4. And I do have another slide that actually shows you what roads are being done. Big ones in there is going to be Springdale from 13th Avenue North up to 19th Avenue North. It's undulations, really bad road. 13th over by Whittier School. You're going to see Main Avenue getting worked on next summer. You're going to see 19th Avenue intersection being worked on. And the good news, so before you panic and write this down, but it's not till 2025 when the North Bridge has to be closed for a while. So just prep your, but that's 2025, so we have some time. And then I mentioned for engineering side, rail park. So this is basically putting in some rail track and switches off of the public rail, which is being installed and paid for by the developers, not by the city. So it's a small chunk of change, 300K we're putting in there, and that will get us the track. And then next year, we'd put a building in that we're hopeful, sale of the ground, we can use those dollars to then build that building. Otherwise, we have to look at some monies for next year's for that. But that's very important because that will give a site for someone to lease from us to then do the operations. The neat part in that is not only will they move the cars for those businesses, but part of the pay that those businesses pay will go to them to maintain the track. So that won't fall upon us or the city staff for that. And just so you guys aren't tracking, Atlas has got some of the ballast already done and sub-base, so on their property that's right by over the road tire, that will start to be, put railroad ties down in the spring, and they're going to start working on the public track that goes north and south and then to the west above Rail 1. That work will begin in the springtime for that. And then we have demo fund. I've been going back and forth because we have still some things out there, but I've settled on 330 for now. I think 330K for now. If you guys small digression, but we just put out for bids and got bids in for 1,000 block of 4th Street. That's the place by Hy-Vee, so hopefully that will be a nice spring gift. And not for this, but I will also bid, we're getting closer to getting more stay done, taken care of. I think the snow covered up the mess for a while, but that's a privately owned business that we're working through the owner to get that done. But the 330 there, we have some other bigger ones coming up. You know, we're looking at the Salvation Army building that's over by the Ace Hardware store that the city now owns that we need to demo. We're looking at the west side of the YMCA, you know, disposition on that. So there's a couple other big ones coming up besides, you know, we have average right now, Tammy and her team between 13 and 17 houses, but a big change this year was we had over 20 houses where a court ordered the owner to tear them down, which that helps because then we don't have to use taxpayer dollars to take care of that. But I give you this a background because we did have Charlie on our team. That's one of his pieces is the nuisance and abandoned buildings, and he was worried about that, but I brought that down to 330 to make us fit currently under the budget cap there. Airport North Ramp, once again, Marlena does a great job. As you can see, her ask is only for $76,700 because she's getting $400,000 from the Iowa DOT for a $476,000 project on that ramp. Engineer bridge repair, this is both 13th Avenue North and Harts Mill Road Bridge, about $160,000, not both, for that bridge out there. Ambulance, this is basically just changing out the chassis. So it's not a full-blown ambulance. What we found is we get a lot more miles on those versus just going to get a new one. You basically take the box off, put it on a new chassis, and you're ready to go. As Chief has seen, they're well over, close over 4,000 calls this year. It just keeps going up and up as far as the number of calls, especially on the ambulance side. Library, again, this is ADA restrooms. If you haven't been to the library lately, I'll just put a little spin there for you. They're getting ready to, I think February 1st, Susie said they're going to move the books up to Lions, so the Friends of the library will actually work out of the Lions Library. And then the basement, which has been all remodeled watch Susie oversight there, will actually be where you can do genealogy and other things, and they're going to rearrange. Genealogy being another section of that, but the downstairs will be for the kids. And they did a really good job. If you haven't gotten over there, it'd be good to check it out. Parks and Rec, 25th Avenue boat ramp rehab, about $175,000. We're going to use 50 from our road projects. This is basically, I don't know if you've been up there either, but it's very, very, I mean, if you have a trailer, it's very annoying, but it's very bumpy, lots of potholes. That'll all be smoothed out and new asphalt put down there at 25th Avenue North boat ramp. Then we have library children's ADA restrooms. I mentioned that twice. Why did I have that twice? I might have to fix that. Oh, we got two different ones though. I think they have two different ones they're doing. Two different restrooms that they're updating for ADA. Airport entrance road remodel. If you haven't been out there, it used to be like a hit the fork in the road and you could go left and right. That right is no longer there. There's a big fence that is now around that. And so people, we've had a couple of people who didn't know that and they started to keep going straight. So we need to put the proper retaining wall, et cetera, safety measures in there so we don't have that reoccur. But that'll be nice to update that. Fire equipment, this is 40 sets of PPE. This is one of those, you know, typically the PPE lasts 10 years, but we need to be able to have that on the schematic to be able to get. Love to be able to just use general fund for that. That would be one if we do have some general fund money. I should put an asterisk by that. But that would be one we'd rather pay for, but these are must-haves, even though they only have a 10-year life on them. And then engineering, wayfinding, this is a pretty good bill, but this includes removing all the current signs and putting all new ones. Had a really good group with Grow Clinton, with Josh Eggers and his team that met, and this will be all new signs throughout the city. Best case scenario on where they should be, what they should say to be able to have people move around. And so that's a pretty big bill there, but I think it's really going to make it pop. The signs are very neat and very, you know, with the paddle wheel emblem and stuff to kind of direct you where you need to go in the city. So I think it'd be really nice since a lot of our signs are being torn up with snow and wind and everything else. And then we have Eagle Point Park, the lodge flooring. If you haven't been up there recently, if you come in the front door, you feel like you're on a ship. It's all wavy. So we're going to fix that up. We're hoping that's the right amount of money for that. Economic development for housing pieces, for grants, for murals, for sods. I basically took this one down here on line 25.22 for Cultures Arts. I took that out, but I incorporated it up here, and so that's why that's $90,000 there for that one. And then Parks and Rec, this is the Eagle Point Park Trail System. This was a really good thing that the citizens had brought forward, worked with Josh and Parks and Rec. A lot of different groups came, and this would be basically an area to walk with inside that area coming out of the lodge going north. Because right now when you're on those small roads and people are running or walking, it's very tight. So this would be on the inside corridor. There was to go all the way up to where the Frisbee Golf area is and then come back down for that. And then library staff entrance, another piece. Of course, that's already being funded. The police, we're going to push this off. If you notice up here for the police ADA, which I skipped over, sorry about that, we upped that to 100,000. We zeroed the fence out and moved it to FY26 because we think it's going to be closer to plus $100,000 or more to do the fence that we need. And for those who weren't tracking, we just recently purchased the police station after 30 years of renting, and we also own the parking lots and then the building next door, which we're going to continue to rent to those DHHS folks and crew. But we want to be able to fence that area in, provide a little more security. This one, it's a kind of a head scratcher. If it does come in, we're going to have to decide what to do. Engineering put in for a $401,000 grant. We won't know until March when that comes out. But the total cost to do a path that would go from where the new path, okay, let me back up. On 13th Avenue North from 4th Street all the way to the middle school will be a new path. It'll be on the north side of the road. It's already been funded. We got $500,000 from the state of Iowa. It's going to hopefully break ground in the spring. The idea here was to continue that from the middle school all the way out to Mill Creek Parkway, then hug the fence line and go all the way up to 19th Avenue North trail. So you basically now have just made a loop inside of there for that. It's just rather expensive because you're out on the parkway, you're trying to nest it up to the fence instead of being next to the road. But we'll cross that bridge, so to speak, if that comes up and we're awarded, we'll figure out that's a big chunk of change to take out of these other projects, about $600,000. MTA concrete repairs, we're going to try to take this out of just some of our ops fund pieces from Public Works and stuff to be able to get that done. Already mentioned cultural fairs there, and I know Cody's online, but I moved these to small CapEx, the small bucket truck, the mower and stuff, took those out of here, and as well as the property purchase next to Central Fire. So as you can see, this total is 9.1 up here. You add the small cap stuff into it, and we're still under that budget there. And for the small cap pieces, we had the Chevy 1 ton, had a Toro mower, had a bucket truck, some audio-visual equipment. We've talked about this a lot, but I think we're finally going to get it where when you have conferences there or the state of the city and stuff, it's just very difficult for anybody to see on a slides or anything. So we're going to look at how we can beef that up and not have as much echo that goes on there for that as well. Some smaller things, but these things also we're going to look and see if we have dollars available in the general fund as we start to look at our budget. But I kept these on for small project or small cap pieces, which again go into the total here, the 421 for that. And then the roads, as I mentioned Springdale, North 13th Street, I mentioned up by Whittier, the 19th Avenue North intersection I mentioned. That actually the intersection then up to the bridge will be redone there, just south of Walgreens. 10th Avenue North is the 1000 block to the 1100 block. South 25th Street is Lincoln Way and Manufacturing. North 10th Street will be from 2nd Avenue South up to Carriage Hill Drive. 1st Avenue, Lawrence there will be North 11th Street to Lawrence Avenue. And then 35th Avenue North will be North 3rd Street to the dead end west. And then Bobetta Court from North 11th Street to the dead end west as well. So I know that was a lot, but so I'll pause for anybody online or here have any discussion on do any of those things stand out that you think they might not fit into the City of Clinton 2032 comprehensive plan?
Questions, anyone? That's a lot to swallow.
I know, it's a lot.
If we move this forward.
Yes, sir.
What could, if we didn't, what would happen?
We're on where the primary that we're going to be. So it's based on the left of that fence. And you'll kind of take the road a little further and you go past the guardhouse.
Hey, Charlie.
You don't see the guardhouse.
Yes.
Once you stand right.
All right. You got hot mic?
Right? And then just give me a call.
I got somebody else behind me.
Oh,
So I turned my mic on because I did want to say that I've been a part of this CIP before in the past, and there's a ton of work that goes into this and consideration, and, from all our department heads to their crews, this is not taken lightly. These are things that the city needs to move forward. And also while we're watching our pennies as they come and go and giving as much help as we can, even from, like other funding, which is typically, fundraisers or people that have expendable, what do you call that?
disposable.
Disposable income.
Yes.
Disposable, there you go. So this is awesome. I'm really happy, looking at this. I've been looking at it for a few days, so this is great work. I think this is great work.
And so kind of follow on, Dave, to your question, what happens is you guys are proving that it fits the plans. The next step, then I go to the council of the whole. We discuss with the council so they can make changes as much as they want, even up to when they finally say, hey, we're going to send this to a council meeting. We try to pause, though, between the COW and the council meeting to then incorporate the budget process, because the council members have to feel a good sense of where they are with the debt service levy and where they are with the overall levy. So we get this paralleled so that we don't fall behind. And then with the council, they can approve the projects, but they will basically not obligate any funding until they're ready with that final version of, what our city tax levy will be. And at that point, then we bring all that together for the final approval. So if you said you didn't like these, we just had to go back and do more homework.
Okay, sounds good. I guess I understand about 90% of it, and I don't see anything wrong with anything. Commissioners, you have anything to say before we even make a motion on this?
I don't, I've seen this before, so.
He worked it firsthand, yes. Yes, sir.
How locked in are these numbers for the projects?
Yeah.
Like some of them,
Super
I'm
question.
looking at them, I'm thinking that's a little high or that's a little low.
Super question. So at this point in time, like, if we just use a couple examples, we're probably, I'll get Jason's reaction, but we're probably pretty close with Manufacturing Drive and Bluff because we know what we have to provide as match. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's what the cost of whatever we're going to do for 2025. But if you look at like pavement management, let's skip down to here. Jason has looked at those. So what he does, pavement management is a little different. So if the council approves the pavement management plan and says that we're going to give you $3.4 million, and he comes back and he finds out North 13th Street's going to be $300,000 more, he's got to go in there and pull another project worth $3,000 out. So we get a little bit of flexibility with roads. But then you go back to, let's go back to.
Can we use the Eagle Point Lodge floor for an example?
Yeah, so yes, that'd be a perfect example. So if we get Eagle Point Lodge and they come in and say it's going to be $500,000 to do the whole floor, we may then shrink it down and just do the entryway, for example.
Yeah.
But what happens is they fall into essential or general purpose, these bonds. So before we go to that bond letting, we need to figure out where they fall, because you just can't take this money from this one and put it over to this one. And so what happens is, if the project, let's do the floor, and the Eagle Point floor comes in at $350,000. We have a choice then. Do we see if we can find other dollars available, or do we hold that bond until next year and then put the money that we need for that? And our philosophy has always been, let's do it once and do it right. Piecemeal, it doesn't make any sense, especially with as much that, I think it was used like 80% of the time it was used for 365 days. I mean, it's used a lot, and that's the entryway. So that would be a perfect example to say, let's hold this, see if we can get a match, go to CCDA, hey, will you give us a match, go back to the state, see if somebody's out there, or is there other general fund dollars that we could hold to put towards that to make sure we do it right?
Sure.
And 9 times out of 10, even when we get quotes for these, this is this year, and we just went through this, by the time we get ready to do the project, because remember, this could be in the spring of 25 that you do the project. So it's more than a year away, and all the prices have increased.
I was looking at some of the ones that are farther
Oh.
out, and I'm like, there's no way that's going
Yeah.
to cost that much.
It's twice as much.
Yeah, probably.
Concur. So I think that was a good example. Like with the ADA pieces, though, those are our in-house pieces that we're going to work. We'll have some contracting that's done, but we know that we think we can fit in the doorways, the opening for the restroom, because right now if you go over there, it's bad, but it's basically really narrow stalls there's no way anybody could get in there. So those we know pretty good. That trail system, that kind of becomes kind of flexible, because anytime we can harness Public Works, and maybe we say, hey, Public Works, can you grade and get the pathway ready? And then we get a contractor to come in and put the asphalt path or concrete path in for that. But no, super good question, because, and ironically, because this is public information, when we go out for bid, they'll be like, well, I saw that you borrowed I saw you borrowed $125,000 for a floor. My quote is $124,500. Not that it ever happens, but. And then the rest of the packet I just gave to you because I just want to show this is what is behind the scenes that we do, and I've already overwhelmed your brains today, but we really take a close look to keep these dollar amounts under this budget thing, budget part to make sure that we have available funds to be able to do what we need. And we go into it with a very conservative look. Like we use either 0% or 1% growth. We just had 7.48 growth this year, which is an anomaly. It's awesome. $75 million valuation. But next year could come back as a -2. So we use growth holding because a wise person once told me, with if you don't plan, the planning will be done for you. Meaning we can't wait on some of these things, and then especially when it comes to safety, the safety projects. So, and what we do is we use PFM, that's the extra acronym, and they actually go through, I know it's hard to read, but you can blow this up. They go through and they figure out where will that be, and then this part here, what I then add in for the council is another row, and it says, what's that mean as far as cents that go on the debt service levy? But I just want to, as Charlie mentioned too, and as Mike knows, we don't take this for granted. We spend a lot of time throughout the whole year going through and looking at these, and we want to make sure, and I have to be kind of the dream crusher because, like, for example, I'll use Parks and Rec right here. It doesn't show on this, it might be in your packet, but these out years have baseball fields, sports complex. It's just we have no room to put that type of dollar into a budget process to do that, even if we got some matches. So, and as I said, we got to be able to plan for today, for tomorrow, and maybe that we can start to make some room open up. We get a nice donor, and then all of a sudden, we're off to the races for that. But it just kind of takes you through whether it's the police, and the police really has been focused. They 2 years ago started using general fund dollars in their budget to buy their cars because you'll scratch your head. Why buy a car that lasts maybe 5 years on a 15-year bond? It doesn't make sense. And there's ways that you can pay that down sooner, but it's still a bond that you took that you didn't need to if you could just pay cash, so to speak, for that. And then the fire, same thing, and I used the example this morning, and I'll use it with you guys, FY30, if that engine's $900,000, it's probably not brand new, because it's probably going to be a lot more for that. Anyway, and that just takes all the way through. We look at the 10-year for every different group. RWF does too, even though that's a proprietary fund. Same with our solid waste, same with our, sewers, RWF. But we take a look to see, hey, what's coming down? What can happen next? We also are very cognizant of if we have a vehicle, say we have a police vehicle that goes 5 years, but it can no longer be in pursuits. Hey, can we put that vehicle at Parks and Rec? Can we put it over at the fire for our inspectors? So we try to do that as well. So with that said, any other questions?
Commissioners, any comments before we vote on this? Or do we have a motion to accept and move it forward?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments before we vote? Leah?
David Brown.
Yes.
Charlie Graff.
Yes.
John Nichols.
Yes.
Mike Schultz.
Yes.
Okay.
I think I did a world record, Dave.
Oh, yeah, I tell you did.
I yield my time to the representative from Clinton, Dave Brown.
Okay, all right. Next is change the regular meeting time from 4 to 3. I don't have any problems with that. I guess I'll individually ask, do you have any problems with it?
I'm likely to miss more meetings at 3 o'clock than I would at 4, but I'll make as many as I can.
Okay?
I'm good with 3 o'clock.
I do remember reading that before. Charlie, are you okay with it?
As good as it's gonna get.
Okay. Okay, I guess then we need a motion to change it from 4 o'clock to 3 o'clock at a regular meeting time, which is the first Wednesday of the month, ordinarily, except for this one.
God bless you.
So moved.
Oh,
I'll second it.
okay. Roll call vote, please.
David Brown.
Yes.
Charlie Graff.
Yes.
John Nichols.
Yes.
Mike Schultz.
Yes.
Okay. Meeting will now be at 3 o'clock. Now,
Jay?
the nominations for this coming year for chairperson, which is me, vice chairperson, and secretary. I'd like to make a comment. I feel fine. I'm okay. I turned 81 today,
Happy birthday.
and I don't.
Spending your birthday
I
here?
don't like people to know when it's my birthday, but thanks for the party. Yeah, and I'd like to step. I want to quit the commission, but I want to step down from the chair. I'd like somebody else to do it. I've done it for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. Actually, I love doing it. I'm surprised that I do it, but I love doing it. It's very enjoyable, and I learn things that I wouldn't know otherwise. I guess I'd like to leave in what to me is good standings. Nobody's ever beat me up over anything, so I must be doing something right. I don't want half the world laughing at me like Biden, so I feel fine, but I would love to give the chair over to somebody else. And before we vote, I did talk to Mike ahead of time. I would like Mike to take it. That's just me. I don't really. Anybody can have it. That doesn't bother me. But Charlie has time, and Charlie's fine. I don't have any problem with him either. But Mike seems to me like the most not suitable, but would fit into it easier than anybody else. John, I don't know if you're interested in it or
I
not.
don't think I'm quite ready for that.
And I
Maybe a
guess that
couple more
was
meetings
my thinking too. Is yeah, they don't beat you up. People are good to you. They respect you for doing this kind of stuff. So, I guess I'd like to hear nominations for who would like to be chair, vice chair, and secretary. Would we leave Jan at that position? So be it.
If she wants to. Yeah.
Okay. Mike, how you sitting with this?
I would accept it. I would
Okay.
be okay.
Okay. John, you've already mentioned your feeling. I've mentioned mine. Charlie, let's hear from you.
So I wouldn't have a problem doing it. I am out of town a lot, but I can, as long as I know that the meeting's at 3 o'clock, the first Wednesday of the month, and I can make arrangements to be there. I have no problem with my taking it over though. So I'm good either way. If it's open, I'd be happy to do it. If there's somebody else that wants it, I'm happy for them.
Well, let me ask you this then. If we go ahead with Mike as chair, then would you be willing to just stay where you're at then, second chair?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Comments, anybody? I guess the way I see it,
Fairly obvious, just when you guys turn in off of 90th Street, there's going to be
Oh,
a fence.
okay.
That's a little bit, trailers.
Yeah, okay,
I'll move to nominate Mike for the chair, Charlie for second, Jan for secretary.
okay.
I don't know if we need to do that individually or,
Well,
We can do it at once.
okay, okay, we've got a motion. Do we have a second then? We'll have Mike as chair. Charlie will be second chair and Jan will stay as the secretary.
Second motion.
Yeah, so that kind of, that red dot.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
To the city left of that.
David Brown,
Yes.
Charlie Graff,
Yes.
John Nichols,
yes.
Mike Schultz.
Yes.
Okay, we've got this year planned. Next meeting is February 7th at 3 o'clock here at the Chambers. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I would like to say thank you to Dave for the work and dedication you've done.
Well, I thank you for that, and I really like to do it, but like I say, I don't know if time isn't up, but I feel fine today, but what about tomorrow? 81's 81.
The sign of a great man, though, is being a mentor, so you'll still be able to
I will.
mentor Charlie and Mike and the crew.
I will, and what my thought process of doing this is to, I don't know if you call Badger City Hall, but if I got a subject, learn the subject, figure out where you're at. Sometimes there's some surprises that you don't know about that I've learned and understand the project better or the subject better from the people at City Hall. So don't look forward to not seeing me again, but I'll be around. Okay?
I second that, and most of all,
Thank
happy
you
birthday.
so much, Dave.
Okay.
Happy birthday, thank you for all your service, and no, you're not leaving.
No, I'm not. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and we are adjourned.
See you, Charlie.
All right.
Thanks,
See you,
Charlie.
All right, bye-bye. See ya.
Okay, I know that's why we always go online.